Okay, guys, I'm back. Let me just cross my fingers and hope that we're just gonna hope that the lag or whatever that was causing the frame drops doesn't continue. I'm not really sure. It never seems to have any real rhyme or reason why I get drop frames and why not. So alright, we are back, and don't mind the webcam if the frame rate is kind of slow on that. I just want to make sure this thing is running and we don't have drop frames. It seems kind of random. Nothing has changed in my settings. I shouldn't have a lot of lag. My internet connection is usually pretty good, but sometimes it just doesn't cooperate and I get a lot of drop frames, and hopefully you guys can let me know if it happens again. It took me a little while to pick up on the fact that I was dropping frames. Sorry about that. Mule Skinner just resigned after bishop takes e4, d takes e4, knight g1. It's the tragedy. Why did he didn't have a better move than knight g1 there? Feels like he should still have some sort of move here, but it's allowing knight d3. So he was unfamiliar with this position. I guess you can play knight e5 here, no? Why is knight e5 not okay? I mean, it could be kind of complicated after something like f6, queen h5 check, g6, but that looks complicated. Maybe it's good for me, I don't know. But knight e5 would be my guess. Anyway, Mule Skinner, caught you out of book. Yeah, you're supposed to play bishop e2. You can also castle and let me take the bishop on d3 if you prefer. But maybe c takes d. C takes d is a move. So there's a number of approaches, but I mean bishop e2 is the main line. Alright guys, let's get back. So back to the 5-5 from Raging Tiger. Guys, don't forget to challenge me casual, because the commentary kind of makes things difficult, you know, for me to play competitively against, especially against higher rated players, but you know, we just keep it unrated. So 5-5. I don't mind playing the faster 5 minute with a 5 second increment. Most people challenge me to like 5-3, but 5-5 is fine. So if it's a longer time control of 7 or 8 minutes, then I really insist on the shorter increment with 3 seconds. 3 seconds is kind of mandatory though. I have kind of a complicated formula, but I don't like the 2 second increment. It gets kind of difficult to commentate and not like lose on time. Theory is not memorization. Yeah, I mean it's important to make a distinction there. Better to understand the ideas, you know, than to just memorize lots of lines of theory. Okay, the Najdorf, Raging Tiger. Well, alright, I'm going to go to my standby here. I'm not feeling particularly creative this moment. Last stream, or last time before I went away, I had played a game with Queen f3, the Emery Tate attack. But I think I have to be in a creative mood to play that. We're going to play the routine Sozin here with bishop c4. Raging Tiger, new opponent. No, I did play him once. Okay, he's from Latvia. I don't recall playing him. Now bishop e7. So the normal move is bishop e7, right? Wait a minute. Bishop e7 is normal, right? No. We're supposed to play b5. I'm having memory loss or something. Play g4 now. I guess I'm having memory loss. Anyway, we're going to go postal here with g4. I remember once in this kind of position, I learned something from Nick DeFermia. Later on, I had a pawn on g5, and I decided to play like rook g1 to defend it, and Nick was like, you know, you shouldn't protect pawns with pieces, you should protect pawns with pawns. That was a very insightful kind of comment that I never really like thought about it that way. So e5, well, it's like a Perenni variation. I do live in Hungary. Perenni Bela was a very talented international master, and he died tragically in a car accident. His memory will be forever associated with his variation in the English attack. But a similar theme. You know, you play g4, knight f5 in one of the English attack lines. In the Perenni variation, white sacrifices a piece, like on f5 many times. Hola, señor. Hola. ¿Cómo estás? Okay, now we like the way this is turning out. I guess white can take back either way. Try to overrun him, or this way you can just keep a bigger control of d5 with the pawn and try to use the g file for direct attack. Kind of a tough decision, honestly. I mean, both should be good, but I really like, you know, bringing another pawn toward the kingside attack. And I have enough, I have enough piece control, you know, in the center that I don't really need the pawn on e4. Okay, knight c6, that's got to be best. And knight d4 could interfere with my plans. But this looks vicious. I mean, g5, g5, I'm not sure there's a forced win here. And we are getting kind of low on time. This is 5-5. Okay, whatever, huh? Just develop a piece. That was my default concept, but g5 is also very strong. Let me know if I drop any frames, guys. It's never know when it's gonna hit. So h6, yeah, good idea. Good idea. Should I play like h4 anyway? Don't even think about castling. At least not kingside. I think the most important thing is that I have good control of d5. I mean, there are certainly more reserved ways I could play this position. I don't have to play h4. When he played h6, I'm kind of like, man, I wish I had played g5 when I had the chance, but I couldn't calculate like exactly a forced win. There was a lot of really good looking variations, like g5, knight d7, queen d5, or g5, knight d7, queen h5. I'm even looking at like bishop takes f7 check. I don't think that's really good enough. f6, maybe sacrificing a pawn. Probably there was some sort of like forced win in that position, but I started to get a little bit unsure when I looked at the clock ticking away. And now, queen f3. Well, I really need to get castled and get my rooks connected. Guys, we have 3 challenges. ARW, we have played before. Only 2 games. King Wiki and Ostkaka. I do ask that people have like established ratings, so Ostkaka, I'm not going to be able to play that. Probably. You're a very new account. People tend to troll me with like new accounts they created, so I really ask that everybody have something around like 50 games established rating with like, 50, okay, 40, something like a reasonable amount of games. So I'm not going to accept challenges from like brand new accounts, basically. But we're castling into the C file, for what it's worth. I don't think he has that dangerous of an attack. I think our attack is more serious. I have to be a little careful, but b4. So, which way did he go? 95. Obviously the white squares are bad for black here. He has very little white square control. It's difficult to attack me at c2 because of his lack of white square control. Sicilian, the d5 square is usually the most important point on the board. This position is no exception. But now it looks pretty dangerous for black. Bishop b6. I still don't see a forced win. I can play g5 though. Oof. I mean, g5 looks really scary for black. There's a lot of good moves. I mean, bishop a4. This is also very strong. I'm not sure he had a defense to that, actually. Bishop a4 probably. Oh yeah, he can take on d5. I think now the opening of the H file is more or less decisive. The problem is the f7 point. He can't defend it. Or can he? What am I doing? He's like dropping a rook with check. Oh, I'm still not awake yet. Alright, yeah. Sadly, he's dropping his rook with check. I'm not really a player who focuses on tactics, Sometimes I'm just not taking free pawns or free pieces, seeing one move tactics, but I'm still not awake yet. All right, Raging Tiger, I don't think you're supposed to let me play like g4. You're supposed to play b5 straight away in that variation. ARW, now that's an established rating. I'm 1-1 against ARW. I don't recall those games. When were these games played? It was in 8-3 and another 8-3. Oh, ARW, yeah, I remember. Okay, he plays the Owen defense. Aha. Now I recall. Drops rook with check, but he shouldn't let the H file open up there. January 8th will be the next simul. Yeah, nothing for New Year's or Christmas. You just picked up chess about a week ago? Wow. Okay, so I'm sorry to keep you waiting, sir. Mr. ARW. So he plays the Owen defense. I remember I lost that game. It was an upsetting game because it was like he looked like he had a really bizarre position with black, a passive, and I got beat against ARW. This was a few months ago. I played with him. Underestimated his position a little bit, and I dropped a piece or something. Okay, was it Owen's defense or St. George defense now? I can't recall. I don't remember. There's something very hyper modern that he plays with black. Maybe Owen's defense. Like E4, B6. Ariel Mangarini played this against me. No, that was E6, C4. Okay, C4 we do see from time to time. And I guess there's more than one way to skin a cat, but I have a friend who played Bishop G4 there. He was a good player. And Bishop G4 is reasonable. Of course, I can, being that I play the Razzi with black, since I play, well, there's several things I could do. I mean, I play the Hedgehog, I play the Accelerated Dragon, so it's like, you know, although the Hedgehog only play against G3, I really should probably do something about this. Strange opening. I saw a very odd variation in my mind. ARW with the bizarre openings. I don't know who ARW is. He's only played 2 games against me. Yeah, it was very weird. He could play Queen B3 there, and then on Bishop takes F3, Queen takes B7, Bishop takes E4, Knight takes E4, Knight D7 I actually analyzed, when black seems slightly worse. So Queen B3 might well be a good move. Have been a good move, not any longer. So now we're into some kind of close Sicilian type of thing. Non-threatening animal. But solid for white. Guys, feel free to challenge me. We only have one challenge. We're playing for another almost 2 hours, so got plenty of time. Now, it is tempting to go back to D7 here. If you like to keep the pieces on the board, keep the pizzas on the board. I mean, playing H3, it's kind of a weakening move for white. So I would think the Bishop D7 is okay. I have no problem at all with this move. I mean, you can also take. It's perfectly okay. If I was playing a higher rated player and I was content to draw, I would probably play Bishop takes F3. But in a situation where I really want to try to like win, I think, you know, I don't mind. I mean, H3, that move, you know, some people might consider it constructive, and maybe it is, but I also consider it to be kind of a weakening. He can never play like F3, which is typical in the Marazzi. I mean, if he does play F3, he'd have a very weakened position. So he's playing pretty well, though, this player. This is like a Gurgenidze Marazzi. He knows exactly where his pieces go. My bishop's on the wrong square for the Gurgenidze Marazzi. I mean, normally it would be on like E6, I think. So I'm a little bit worried about this. ARW seems like a very strong player. He's 1492 in blitz and 2100 in classical. That's a very typical distribution. But queen e3, knowing to play queen e3 here, not something everybody knows about. The other possibilities, of course, the normal queen d2 and maybe queen d3. It's a very sophisticated sort of plan. If my bishop were on e6, I'd probably play queen b6 in this position. Unfortunately now, queen b6. Queen b6 may not be that great. Could still be playable. It feels like I'm worse. So, well, I guess I should have played bishop takes f3. And not too many people who play this are like experts on the Marazzi bind, you know. They go from the stodgy, sort of weird c4 into knowing like the theory of a kind of complex accelerated dragon line. You know, why wouldn't he play the open Sicilian in the first place if he really knew that well? It's kind of strange. Anyway, looks like I'm in a bit of a problem. I have a bit of a problem here. I need to move my queen. I need to move my bishop. Rook e8 is very slow. Queen e3 protects e4. Queen b6 again. Queen b6. I mean, I might have compensation after queen b6. Take, bishop takes f6. Maybe it's not so bad. I mean, I'm a little bit concerned about what happens if I don't do this. Actually, Rock and Eagle, you're kind of new to the stream. What's up, man? I'm guessing you're from the US. Are you this player? Are you ARW? No. ARW is from the USA. I like it when people have their identity like open, or at least like where they're from. You know, it makes it more fun. A lot of people are just like anonymous, like they have no idea what country they're from. They don't tell you who they are. I like to have a little bit of familiarity with who we're playing. So at least with ARW, we know it's an American player, which is more information than we get with most people. I thought queen b6 would be kind of fun. If he trades queens, there are a couple different options. I guess it's sort of perverted to think of this position as fun, though. This is not really fun. You have to be kind of love defending to play the black side of the Marazzi bind. I mean, in general, it's not. I guess it's not what most people would define as fun. But anyway, I've always been a player who often got bad positions out of the opening, so I'm used to kind of defending and like saving bad positions in my career. So I don't mind a little bit of a cramped situation. But I think a lot of people wouldn't agree with me that this is fun. There are some interesting lines, though. He could trade and then take on f6 and play knight d5. Is it weird opening day, Lord Auric? It is not. Yesterday was weird opening day. We had some King's Gambit. A lot of Dutch bird opening type of stuff going on yesterday. A lot of f4 and f5. How do you know he's American? Well, I don't know he's American. I know that he has an American flag next to his account. It says United States. That doesn't mean he's American. It just means his account is registered. It doesn't mean anything, actually. I mean, you can, like, I guess you can make it say North Korea if you want to. But we'll just, like, you know, we're just friendly, and we're just assuming that people are honest for the most part. If it says United States, I assume he's probably if not American, from America. That doesn't mean he's American, obviously. I'm American, I live in Hungary. I'm not Hungarian. Wow. So, I mean, you know, queen takes b6, pawn takes b6, bishop takes f6. We have two interesting choices there. Pawn takes f6 and bishop takes f6. That I thought, that was kind of fun. I thought, a kind of interesting and fun line. Now he's lost the tempo. And now he's lost the tempo, so we can go bishop e6 and kind of revert to a normal Gurgenidze type of plan. What we need is some quick counterplay against c4. I hope this is going to work. I'm a little concerned about it, to be honest with you guys. Wonder, what else can I do, though? I mean, bishop c6 just doesn't seem... Actually, in retrospect, bishop c6 did make a lot of sense, didn't it? Why didn't I play bishop c6? I should play bishop c6 to attack e4. And then he has to play an awkward move, like bishop f3 or bishop d3. Or knight d5, of course. Bishop e6 probably not as good. I mean, this is a standard formation for black in Gurgenidze, variation of the Marazzi, but by the way, when I'm talking about this so-called Gurgenidze variation of the Marazzi, if you're not a theoretician, you might not know what I'm talking about, but Gurgenidze, it's a like variation where you're playing knight takes d4 very early in the accelerated dragon Marazzi, and you're playing knight takes d4, queen takes d4 with black, and then playing like, well, g6, bishop g7, and chasing the queen away from d4. In many variations of the Marazzi, black doesn't exchange on d4. And this is what I'm talking about. This particular plan for black of exchanging knights on d4, that's the Gurgenidze. Alright, so the position is close to like what would be typical for one of those Marazzis, but this h3's been played, and my queen's on b6. So it's kind of a strange situation. And it's difficult for me to put any more pressure on white's position. And rook c5 loses an exchange. I can play a6. a6 weakens the b6 square a bit. But my only plan is to like play b5 here. I'm concerned about my overall long-term plan in this position. What am I doing? Not that many options. I really regret I didn't play bishop c6. It would have been much easier to come up with a concrete plan. Now I'm kind of stuck with this situation where I don't really have any counterplay. It says Nepal, but he's from Nepal. Can you have a night per week where you stream where all your openings for that night are gambits? Rook e1. Happy to see rook e1. It takes pressure, defense away from f2. Although not a terrible move. I mean, I was really concerned about king h1 and f4, f5. That's the active plan for white. I guess there's nothing wrong with rook e1 though, per se. DST, that's a good suggestion. It's a good suggestion. Rook e1 is not bad actually though. My pawn is constantly hanging in a lot of lines here. Get my rook off this line. Could play bishop f3 or something. White's better here. There's just no question. I don't have a plan because I put my bishop on the wrong square. No, DST's suggestion is a good one. Gambits rather than unusual openings. Something I'll think about. I kind of like that. It's a cool idea. Bishop d3 now. Queen a5. Stopping e5, or at least attempting to. Yeah, the Marazzi is just no fun for black. But 92. Super passive. Okay, what next? b5. We gotta try to get some counterplay. At least we chipped away. We chipped away at the center. Okay, now which way do we take back? We lose the file. Bishop takes. Rook c1. I don't really like allowing rook c1, but I'm probably in some trouble here. Maybe we're okay. It's a little scary, but I think we might be okay. Wow. I mean, I'm happy with the draw. I'm slightly worse here, so White played very conservatively. I think he had better. I don't see any clear wins for White, but he probably had like 4 or 5 different ways to get a slight advantage in the last 6 or 7 moves. So even the final position is difficult for Black. I have a kind of thankless position. I was thinking about maybe 98. He's got a queenside majority. It's just no counterplay for Black. I mean, d5 would be nice, but he can play e5. Nah, I'm not happy with this game. Good game by you at least. Gilgamesh 5-3. We played Gilgamesh the other day. What's up, Spinal Tap? Don't play the Marazzi for Black, man. It's just not. Never ever play the Marazzi against a lower rated player for a win. I'll tell you that right now. This has happened to me at my last tournament in Harakan. I couldn't beat this guy who was like 2100. Okay, like, to give him credit, I think at one point he was nearly 2300 in his career, but still he's like around 2100 now. And I had absolutely no chance of beating him. In fact, I almost like lost trying to overpress. So, or it was almost worse, or maybe I was slightly worse. So if you do play any kind of opening that leads to Marazzi type position, you're really playing for a draw. I mean, do not like expect to play for a win as Black against anybody in the Marazzi. It's a big problem for the Accelerated Dragon player. Maybe you need to think about your move orders and try to play the kind of modern defense. For example, like if you play the Accelerated Dragon for Black and White plays e4, you play c5, and White plays like knight f3, and you play knight c6. Then there's like d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6. Well, they can't play the Marazzi there. If I play like g6 on move 2, I get a lot of Marazzi type positions. I can play a modern defense instead. Okay. So just avoid Marazzi type structures if you want to play for a win with black. Not a good place to be. The dragon is fine, but the accelerated dragon has to face the Marazzi, which is very, very tough and solid for white. Gilgamesh. It's very strange, you know. I've noticed this again and again and again and again and again. It seems like whoever plays the classical variation, they don't seem to know that you're supposed to play knight to b3. It's weird, you know. Like, I don't think anybody like owns any chess books anymore. Nobody knows you're supposed to play this move. They just kind of make the stuff up over the board. But the idea is to play knight b3 and to increase your control over d5. Now, my personal experience is that another trap, kind of another tricky situation, when you're playing against lower rated players, in the accelerated dragon, you're like, well, all the books say you should play d5. I can even play d5 in this position if I want to. Play d5, it equalizes. It's great, it equalizes, but it also gives white like a draw, like an easy draw. So if you want to win, you really have to keep pieces on the board. And so that's the trick. Gilgamesh, he's lower rated. He doesn't have to fear d5. d5 is like a simplifying move. So objectively, he can kind of like take advantage of the fact that I don't want to draw, basically, in this position. So he doesn't have to retreat his knight to b3. But theoretically, that's the best move. That's why I gave up. Spinal Chap says he gave up because of the Marazzi, of course. Yeah, I mean, how many times like have I had to play the black side of the Marazzi? And I couldn't possibly beat like 2100 players. F4. I had this funny game 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, whenever it was. It was this exact position. Was the queen on d2? The question was the queen on d2 or not. Yeah, I guess the queen wasn't on d2. It was on d1. If the queen is on d1, this actually transposes to a 4 pawns attack, King's Indian. That's something I never realized before. I had a game with Leonid Shamkovich back in the late 90s before he passed away. Maybe like his last tournament ever. And he played the same variation. But I think this is an interesting situation here. We could again have a game kind of like last game, in a sense, except white's pawn is not on c4. But this is very similar to the game I drew, except the pawn was on c4. We have queen on d1, pawn on c4. Then we would have the Shamkovich position. Yeah, this looks like it just drops a pawn for white, though. It takes e4. Maybe more. What he loses? How much does he lose here? Just a pawn? Dropping his e4 pawn. So I thought Gilgamesh should play like queen e3 now. Queen e3. I don't see any tricks with e5. Maybe I could do some kind of e5 trick, but I don't think it works. After queen e3, he's even threatening bishop takes a7. Maybe not, though. Kind of complicated. Okay, obviously knight d5 is just a blunder. So if we take this position back, we put this pawn here, and we move the queen back on d1. That's the game I had in Harkine. It's also the game I had against Leonid Shamkovich. And after bishop f3, I played e5 against Shamkovich. It doesn't work. Shamkovich was afraid to take the pawn, but I analyzed it a month ago, and There have been a couple games in that position. E5 was like a bluff. So basically I bluffed Shamkovich. He could have won a pawn in a very long variation there. White wins a pawn. Okay, another quick game. Cheesy 6-4 from New Zealand. We've never played before. Okay, it's 2100. Pretty solid. Merry Christmas, says Dr. Checkmate. Man, what's up? Dr. Checkmate is an old friend of mine. Good to see you, man. Merry Christmas indeed. So, no more Marazzi type positions, please. Cheesy 6-4. Well, I don't really have any options here. I have to play d4. The Slav again. Very well. Well, if I play knight c3, it's a note boom. I played b3 against Dimitri Schneider in the U.S. Championship once and lost. It's interesting, but it's kind of a passive line. Knight d2 is another move that people play. Queen c2. g3. There's all sorts of moves here. I don't really like e3. It's not a variation I play. I don't really play the white side of the Marin, and so e3 doesn't really fit my repertoire. I can play pretty much anything else. Cheesy 6-4. I'm actually happy you did that. Chessy 6-4. I called him Cheesy 6-4. I feel so bad. It looks like cheesy. Chessy 6-4. Okay. Good, man. I'm glad you played f5, because this brings up an interesting discussion. The thing is that people for like forever decided that against the Stonewall Dutch, the knight is badly placed on c3. That was the classical thinking. But I'm not really sure about that anymore, you know. After struggling against the Dutch Stonewall for like quite a while now, I'm beginning to question whether this knight is really like better, you know, if this variations, these old variations like knight d2, I mean, is that really better for white? I'm not so sure. And so we play now with knight on c3 against the Stonewall Dutch. You got some norms in my stocking. I need a little more practice. Santa. I think Santa, I appreciate the norms. We need some more warm-ups. Maybe I'll get to play a GM tournament in the spring. Bishop e7. Quite the passive formation, but he doesn't need to play bishop d6 since I don't have the threat of like b3, bishop a3, etc. But I'm not sure, you know, whether it's better to go bishop e7 or not, a d6. Who knows? So the plan is, what am I doing with my knight on c3? Do I need to play queen c2? I think queen c2 is probably a useful move here. Now, sometimes you can go like rook d1, but I'm not sure that's the idea. Yeah, I wish you the best of holidays, Mr. Dr. Checkmate. 94 right away. Chess e6-4. What's up with the 94 right away? Well, nothing really, I guess. We just ignore it. I don't know. Now I'm trying to remember something I looked at here. But this is a pretty quick 94. I still think that the bishop is more active on d6. I still feel like bishop d6, queen e7 would give black a little more space to operate with. So that would be my selection, but okay, it's totally playable the way he's playing with bishop on e7. Guys, we're going to be streaming today and tomorrow, and then it's holiday weekend, and then again next week we're on for Monday through Friday. The holidays gel very well with the weekday stream. And simuls are off until, as Jeroen, our faithful moderator, pointed out, January 8th I'm going to do a simul on Sunday night. So if you're into the simuls that I do, that will be the next one. I hadn't had a chance to play this variation yet with white really too much, and maybe an offhand blitz game here or there, but bishop b4 is very strange. A strange move, bishop b4. Okay, well, if I just call your bluff here. This is your good bishop. Do you really want to give that up or something? I don't think so. It's like an impulsive move. It seems like a very impulsive move. But maybe he has a concrete idea. I have to turn into Julio Grande Zuniga. I don't know. Actually, Julio's idea doesn't work either. I was analyzing a Grande game from the Bundesliga yesterday, and he like stuck his rook on b4 in a weird position. That's it's an inside chess joke, basically. It seems the Texas sharpshooter, worms in my stocking. Wow. What's up with the worms? So I mean, we've got to be happy with the fact that black has traded off the dark squared bishop. We can certainly play pawn takes pawn followed by c4. Still, he has this kind of dangerous looking knights. I could also play c5. What about like knight e1 and trying to oust his knight with f3? Or even knight d2. I mean, knight d2 is okay. Although trading pieces... Basically, there are a lot of choices here. I don't know what to do. I just have to make a decision. He's playing very fast, as most of my opponents do. Classical chess, right? It's very slow. He has knight b6, knight c4. However, if he does do that, my knight can come into e5, kind of dominating the position. So I'm not sure objectively that's all that dangerous. Here he goes. Knight e5. This is getting kind of tricky. Maybe it was better just to play pawn takes pawn. I didn't really want to bring his queen out to d5, but tactically that might have been better. He knows I'm an avid fisherman. I did a little fishing in the summer. I don't know if I'm avid. I was definitely more avid when I was a kid. Yeah, this is a problem. He's gonna try to swipe a pawn here. And it feels like there should be something for me. Position's going to open up for the bishops, and I should have compensation for any sacrificed material. But I'm not really admitting I calculated this properly. The stone wall. The stone wall, he doesn't take the pawn either. Stone wall with open position. Pretty bizarre. What can I do? Knight a5. His pieces are getting kind of scary active after like knight a5, queen takes d4. Bishop e3. Or knight takes b7. Look how active his pieces get there. It's sort of frightening. But I better do something here. He's got a very good game. Cheesy 6-4. I don't know what to do. I can take the pawn on e4, lose an exchange. That's good. I really have to hold on to my material. All my material. f3 is possible. f3 doesn't work because of tactics. Play like e3. I don't know if I like this position or not. He has pretty good control of the white squares. My dark square bishop is sort of semi-bad. He's offering me a draw. It's kind of weird. Like, why offer a draw in this position? It's pretty complicated. f3, queen b2, a4. Maybe a4? Maybe I should have taken the draw. Probably would be prudent to take the draw here, but my opponent is 250 rating points lower. I'm a little bit concerned about my position. I didn't want to allow b5, locking down the white squares, and keeping b6 is a kind of weakness. Never played this opponent before. He seems pretty strong. Classical, lot of games. His ratings are very, very close. That's amazing. You don't see that too often, where all three, Bullet, Blitz, and Classical, are all around the same. It's an interesting position. I mean, I don't see why we should agree to a draw here. I'm not saying I'm better, but objectively, it's a strange position to agree to a draw in. I mean, this is a casual game. It's very imbalanced. I'm not sure who's better. It seems kind of like anticlimactic to just agree to a draw. This position is anything but a draw. Both sides have chances, I would think. He could have forced me to play f3 anyway with knight g5 on the last move. So let's just go ahead and play it. It's possible that the two bishops turn him out. I mean, I just start, getting out of control with my central pawns, and the two bishops start chopping up the board. But I'm not that convinced that it's so easy to pull that off. He has He obviously has a lot of tactical tries, constantly had a lot of tactics against d4. Even here, he might still have it. Although I have bishop a3. That drops some control of the center. e4, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Rook takes, king takes, queen check. Very complicated. e4 takes, rook takes, king takes, queen check. That's nasty. Queen f2, dropping a pawn for me. I can't do it. I think I'm just going to opt for this simple continuation here. Again, a tactic, right? He has another tactic. Bishop takes e4. He sees every tactic on the d4 pawn. White should be a little bit better here with the central majority, but and his king a little bit open. My king has more pawn security. Pawn security. Pawn protection. Not that much more, actually. Maybe it's about the same, ultimately. 2 pawns protecting my king. We've got more central majority. White's a little bit better. But there was a million tactics I could have fallen for. And now, once again, cannot play e4. How can I just keep everything protected? Very difficult to do. This is why he offered a draw earlier. I have this move. Almost forgot about this move. That was kind of an important try. Bishop f1. I had seen it before and then it slipped my mind. My original plan was to play bishop c4, but he's hanging b6 here. So it looks like we've got something. Wow. Well, I'm very happy to trade. You should never ever. Should never exchange there. I don't know if I should exchange pawns here myself. Without that many pawns on the board. But his pawns are on the wrong color. Yeah, maybe h5 now. This is decisive. Decisive king penetration. Tough game. Tough game. Alright, Crazy is up 8-3. That maybe there was even some drawing chances there with the simplified 4 against 3 bishop ending. But all the pawns are on the wrong color. It's pretty tough. Crazy. Guys, send me some more challenges. What's up? Did I play any tables with Tonka at Prague? Well, I don't know Tonka, like... I don't know Tonka... what he looks like. He's Canadian, right? I played with some Canadian guys. I don't think so. I didn't play that many. I mean, I played mostly small buy-ins. I played Tonka online, like years ago, a lot of tables, but I'm not sure what he looks like. I don't even know his real name. I'm not that big a follower of like live poker players. I played with some donkeys who won a lot of money, though. It was funny. It seems like the object is to get it in bad and get really lucky. I played with some strong Belgian players, with some strong Polish players. Pierre Neuville was on one of my tables with another Belgian pro. They were making my life a living hell in the 2000 Eureka, where I missed the bubble by like 40 people. These guys were just constantly making my life difficult. I didn't really play with anybody I knew. There was this one tournament where I played. A very strange thing happened. It was a 500 no limit hold'em tournament, and 3 Polish pros who were roommates all ended up on the same table. It's like Dominic Panko and like 2 others. I don't know how that can happen in a like 300 player tournament. You know, how do 3 people who are roommates with each other end up on the same table? That's really bizarre. Anyway, here we are talking about poker and playing chess. Daniela SOTT, what would happen if you played F3? F3. Talking about last game? Well, I did play F3. It depends on which position we're talking about. F4 here, very early. I mean, I can certainly play D5 now. I found that, you know, in positions where white plays an early F4, you play D5, you get an isolated pawn. Like the G4 square is very weak. I played with a few good Canadian players, but nobody that I know by name. There was this big donkey who won a lot of money from Winnipeg. He played like the worst hand I've ever seen against me, and he ended up winning like second place in in the 10,000 high roller. I thought he was awful, and he must have been miraculously lucky to take down almost $1 million. But I didn't play with any Canadian players I know of. There was another good Canadian player on one of my tables I was talking to, but not like a household name. B takes C. This is good position for black, hanging pawns. But F4 doesn't really do much other than weaken white's position and the G4 square. So I've got a good game here. Bishop C5. Knight A4, unfortunately. I wish I could prevent white from castling here. I mean, I can play bishop C5 and like castle myself. It's an interesting idea. What else? I mean, I think that bishop D6 is... The thing is, if I play something like bishop D6, bishop E3, he sets up a really strong blockade on those squares. So maybe I circumvent that by playing bishop C5, but then what do? Do I give up my bishop for the knight? Like knight A4, castles, knight takes C5, queen A5 check, bishop D2, or queen D2, queen takes C5. It's an interesting try. I mean, I think this is worth a try. I mean, I'm not sure this is the best move. Maybe I have other tries too. But let's give it a shot. It's a plan, at least. I mean, maybe white's happy to try to castle queenside. I could also just pull it back, but knight A4, it seems a bit strange, you know, to play like bishop C5, knight A4, bishop D6. Yes, his knight is on the side of the board, but he's now going to blockade C5. And okay, on the other hand, I might get my knight to E4. Like bishop D6, followed by a very powerful knight E4. Might not be that bad for black. My plan was to give it up. Give it up. My pieces are all good. Everything's good. This is even good. This guy's going to go out here and trade itself for that active bishop on E2. Maybe knight versus bad bishop type position can arise. So I kind of like my game. I mean, it's easy to play. I have active pieces. Maybe I'm not better, though. Okay, white made one questionable move, F4. And I'm not sure if that's enough to make him worse or losing or anything like that. Or, you know, you're white, you make one mistake, normally it's probably like a draw or something, you know. You don't lose because you made one bad move. Here, white has to be careful, though. I trapped his king in the center. A3 is enormously slow. So I think that might lose by force. I mean, you're nearly losing by force with knight E4. But you have rook F1. And I don't see a denouement, as Pierre Neuville would say. A lot of good Belgian poker players in Prague. Rook E8. We don't have too many Belgian players here on the stream, actually. We need more. We've had one, at least one lately. Scotty Pippen says, now we're back to chess. Said the other day that I wanted to really learn chess. But like really learn. Yeah, he missed the boat. Well, there's two ways to get you. Now, this was the point. So that's it. There must have been some way for white to avoid getting crushed here. I mean, obviously a3 is too slow. He's got to act fast, so what can he do, actually? It's kind of tough. I mean, I was looking at bishop c3, but then rook e8. Yeah, bishop c3 might be the only move, but then I have, yeah, bishop c3. Maybe this holds on. I don't really see another alternative. He could play king f1 or something grotesque like that. It looks awful, though. Knight e4, bishop e1, or queen e1. Certainly an awkward position, at best. So, well, I'm winning a piece. Winning a piece, so just keep him trapped in the center. With bishop c3, he'd have options to like interfere. Yeah, nice arrow. He'd have options to interfere with my actions along the e-file with bishop e5 in some positions, so that was kind of the only chance. FM Ventura MF. I am William, can I play with you? FM Ventura, you're welcome to join. I mean, we have just one challenger at the moment, so if you want to play, you can jump in the line here. There's only one person waiting. You can play after them. Just challenge me to anything between like 5 and 8 minutes with like a 3-second increment. 5 to 8 minutes with a 3-second increment. Everybody's welcome to play. Beginners, strong players. I don't discriminate. Queen takes e2 check. Yeah, this is over. So anyway, it was an interesting plan, you know, to play like, to give up my bishop with bishop c5. I'm happy that it worked, but I'm not sure that objectively, if he defends perfectly, it's like a win. Yeah, I'd love to play with a master player. Sometimes we get some strong opponents. It's not that frequent. But I do request that everybody challenges me to casual games, because the rated games are just too difficult when I'm using a lot of time. You guys know I get in like really bad time pressure with commentating and whatever, so you know, when I play blitz privately for my own enjoyment, it's a different story. But let's just get the king to the center here. I need to get my rook in the game. Yeah, he's dropping this pawn. That's an important nugget. That's a killer knight, man. That knight is deadly. So Ventura, did he challenge me? Whoa. Yeah, but he challenged me 10-0. Ventura, if you can replace the challenge with 8-3, man. I would much prefer 8-3. I don't really do like non-increment games. I mean, I do in my private time, but please challenge me to actually bishop d3 is sort of interesting. Is that asking for trouble to go here? Ventura, yeah, just replace it with 8-3 or 7-3 instead of 10-0. It's basically the same thing, but it's with an increment. More or less the same amount of time. Casual. Yeah, that's perfect. No, it's 10-0 again. Stop challenging me to 10-0. Make it 8-3 or 7-3. Why is there no mate in this position? It's almost mate. Still no mate. Man. I'm never going to checkmate him on a5. How am I going to checkmate this king on a5? I'd have to be able to get in like... Alright, let's see. It's not going to happen. Okay, we can get him on a5. It's going to be a little tricky. Right. There's one way to do it. Ventura only challenges to 10-0 rated. I'm not sure. Is he listening? Ventura, you need to re-challenge me to unrated 7-3 or 8-3. And my other challenger is like a non-rated account. No, he's got rated games. Okay, it's cool. He just doesn't have classical. Okay, so Stop Mir and Bra is the next player at 8-3. Ventura, I'm happy to play, but you just need to change it to like unrated or casual 7-3 or 8-3. Hedgehogs for me says generally the numbers add up to at least 9 chess. Calls it classical. I don't know what algorithm they're actually using though. Me too. But it's pretty much the same as like a 10-0 game. I mean, there's really no difference. But it's like when I'm commentating, I just kind of need like not to flag while I'm talking about the game with the 2 seconds, 3 seconds per move, so I can discuss things. So we'll wait for Ventura to re-challenge me. I mean, I'm not trying to dodge him, just I don't want to play 10-0 rated. Okay, Stop Mir and Bra. This is a new opponent we've never played before. I'm gonna play. Well, let's play the Caro-Kann. I mean, we played the Sicilians today. We played a Petrov. Something a little different. The algorithm is... yeah, the algorithm is 8 minutes for 30 moves. Aha. Answered by Thibault. So, Perihelions. Thank you. Alright, Caro-Kann. Yeah, in the past I played a lot of knight d7 and even knight f6 with g takes f. Those are probably the 2 worst variations you can play. All my career I tried to play like really the most difficult Caro-Kanns, but objectively probably knight f6, knight takes f6, e takes f6 is like the most solid line for black, and bishop f5 is, well, undoubtedly the main line. So I think all my life I've been trying to do the most difficult lines in the Caro-Kann. Knight d7 is just really passive and unpleasant, and g takes f is pretty risky, to say the least. Okay, so, but I want to warn you that my theoretical knowledge of this is not that deep. Of course, h4 is the main line. Knight f3. There's nothing wrong with knight f3. And a lot of people are playing other lines like bishop c4 followed by knight e2. That's quite a trendy variation. Ventura still hasn't changed his challenge. I don't know, man. He's from Brazil. He's either not tuned in or he's not listening. Alright, well, whatever, man. We'll just wait for you to realize. Bishop c4 now. Kind of strange, like with bishop c4 with knight on f3 and no h4. I don't really understand the significance of that. I think he's just making a natural move. It's not a theoretical decision here. e6 or knight f6. I can also play queen c7, I guess. Sometimes queen c7 to stop bishop f4 and advance. However, You know, is there any danger this is like a delayed h4, h5? If I were to play this in like queen c7, he could play d5 sometimes. Also h4, h6, h5, bishop h7, and something like queen e2 maybe. Am I really seriously afraid of like bishop f4? I mean, I think any of these moves is probably okay, but I'm stopping d5, and I'm not really afraid of this. It's a strange setup. We can play queen c7 later. And also there's like queen a5 check. You can use that idea like in the main line. Probably queen a5 check, inducing c3, which would make long castling impossible. It's a weird setup. I mean, this is not very common. Bishop c4 and knight f3 with no h4. It's not bad for white, but it probably doesn't cause black a lot of problems. Rocket Eagle says, when I face h4 while playing the Caro-Kann with black, I always get crushed. Yeah, Ventura's not down with the increment, man. He only plays non-increment. Ellie Super, and then we got him copying with a 10-0. We don't play 10-0, guys. First of all. Alright, now maybe I want to think about stopping bishop f4 for good. Okay, it's not bad. I've done this kind of setup for white when I was just bored and wanted to try something different, but without h4, h5, generally speaking, white doesn't really get much in the way of initiative. So the next challenge is PQLLED with an 8-3. Correct. Is 94 a threat? Is 95 a threat? I'm trying to debate between knight f6 or queen c7 here. I mean, knight f6 is by far the more natural move. He does have 95. I still think my position is pretty solid. Did not do that. He goes for my bishop the other way. And this is a better move, I think, 95. You can opt to take on g6 if you want to, but why put the knight on the side of the board? But in general, now we should think about castling long. The only thing at queen c7, yeah, I kind of like queen c7. I mean, there's knight f5, but is he going to drop the h2 pawn? Plus his knight can get trapped on g7. This seems better. I want to keep the option to castle queenside here. Now, one important concept that everybody should know is that in the Caro-Kann, Slav, whatever, we all like to grab the bishop pair, but is it really an advantage? You know, I mean, that's really, I think, the critical question. A4, he's trying to talk me out of castling queenside. I can castle kingside too. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's quite solid. I mean, it's safer to castle kingside, in fact. I'm not going to have this play down the h-file, but it's fine. It would have been adventurous to castle queenside. Also more dangerous. I think that my position is pretty solid here. White might have some kind of advantage. I don't think it's much. The real problem for me is when I'm playing white in this type of position, like, what do you do with this bishop? I mean, what does it do? You know, it doesn't do anything. There's no good square for it. It never seems to have a function. It's like blocked by these pawns on f2, d4, b2 all the time. If you trade it off, like, its opposite color bishop's black is fine. So is this really an advantage, like having the bishop pair in this position? I don't think so. You know, this happens a lot in the Scandinavian and Caro-Kann. Not really an advantage. Like, this is a falsity. You know, this is not. Some beginners think that this is a tangible advantage, but it's just it's a lie. You know, this bishop pair is not an advantage. It could be an advantage in some situations, if the position were to really open up. You know, and especially like if there's imbalance in the pawn structure. So if I like trade off my c pawn here, and maybe there's another imbalance in the pawn structure, yeah, then your bishop pair becomes really good in some endings. But if I don't, I don't think this is a great piece. Does he have any sacrifices? Like, I didn't even consider, but no. In my solid structure, it's very solid. Definitely the adventurous player would have castled queenside in my position. But I was like, okay, we're down to 3 minutes. He's sort of threatening a4, a5, a6, b4, b5 type stuff. I've been checkmated castling queenside in the Caro-Kann a fair share of times. So bishop d2. Maybe a5 here. I can play e5. If you want to break, yeah, if you want to make a pawn break, I think this is the better one. I mean, I am kind of opening a dangerous diagonal here, so it's debatable. Maybe I shouldn't do anything, but I still think that it's okay. I still think it's okay. A little bit dangerous. But at the same time, I'm like, is he going to take and bring my knight to a powerful position? You know, his knight on g3 is pretty bad, which is typical for the Caro-Kann and any position, really. So, I'm not sure he's in any situation to really take advantage of the active bishop. And I like this better than c5, which could give him a queenside majority. Not to say it's not possible. Another move I was thinking about was like bishop f4, but I think he was prepared to like avoid the exchange of bishops. I mean, you could make a draw there. If I was playing another strong player who was like an IM or something, I might be content to go like bishop f4, bishop b4, bishop d6, and offer a draw. I don't think that black is better. c3. And now we've got very good IQP position. Isolated queen pawn. a5, worth considering here. I think knight b6 is good. Is it? Well, I'm hitting his bishop. Then we're going to the blockading square. Hard to argue with that. What do we got for challenges? Yeah, PQ. And the other guys just will not change their challenges, whatever. You once seen a Caro-Kann McShannon, you mean McShane, Anand, with an analysis idea of b4, b5 against this pawn structure. Would this also apply here? Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, I mean, especially if I'm castled queenside, that would be like a way to just open lines to attack my king. But maybe in general too. You're breaking up my pawn chain, so it's definitely relevant in any situation. Kind of minority attack, so to speak. Okay, so now white doesn't really have any threats. There's nothing along the e file. His knight is bad. He's tied down to h2. He is threatening a5 though. So I'm thinking a5, blockading on the dark squares, and then knight e5. If I play knight e5 right away, he plays a5 with a kind of space advantage on the queen side. So I'm thinking that a5 might be a good idea to kind of get my fair share of space here while I can, and fix this pawn, fix this pawn. These guys are all, my pawns are a little more compact, so I think a5 is, I actually thought he could have played bishop a5, maybe go in the opposite color bishop position. Bishop a5, queen d7, bishop takes b6, a takes b6, queen b3. But again, there, maybe I'm better there. He just has an isolated pawn, and there's no real sacrifices. This looks good for black. I mean, white's not that much worse, but he is worse here. This pawn is a serious concern. His bishops are good. I'll give him that. His knight is not great, and it's also tied down to h2. It's a serious problem. I'm pretty much ready to like fight for the e file. I have maybe a knight to f4, but I think this pawn on d4, maybe I can simply try to attack that. It's not so easy though. I can attack it with the queen, and then what? He can defend it with the bishop or knight, maybe bishop. Dark red is objectively the best name color. Yeah, light pink. Light green is not the greatest. Shakarov. Luke McShane. Luke McShane. I'm so old, I played Luke McShane when he needed like a high seat to sit at the table. Now he's like a middle-aged adult. Alright, b3. Twice he drew me from bad positions when he was a little prodigy. Okay, b3. So you can defend d4 somehow. Your queen is really awkward. Bishop b4. How about bishop b4? Maybe we just go here first. Which way? The f rook? What's the f rook doing anyway? It's not doing too much on f8. It gives my king a little air. Queen c2. Connecting your rooks. I have knight b4. Bishop b4. Doesn't look like he's going to roll over and die. So we get lucky here. He gave me this pawn. I think he had to play queen c4. Now my queen is ragingly strong. Queen h4. Now he can defend, obviously. Queen h5. I don't want to run out of time. Oh, this guy is pretty fast. Looks like I'm dropping the pawn back there. I'm very fortunate that I didn't lose a pawn. I didn't know you were like a blitz player. Oh, I don't win a piece here. You're kidding me. Oh my god. Whew, this is scary. Not the best technique. Not the best technique. Man, I don't know. Alright, tough game, tough game. I really probably let it slip to a drawing position there in the rook ending. Guys, we have half an hour left. Those guys that want to change their challenges, we're going to play PQ, LLED. Isolated, the ISQ. IQP. It's E4 again. We haven't had too many D4 players today. It's an all E4 day. Was there an English opening? I'm running out of openings to play. Alright, we'll go back to the Sicilian. But he did a good job hanging on there. I didn't see like you could play King G1, King F1. That's really pretty obvious. So I could have taken with a knight on G2. If I take with a knight on G2 instead of with a rook, my knight is really out of play, and he might get too connected past pawns on the queen side, moving by the time I can, by the time, what is up here? By the time I can get my pieces extracted from his king, maybe he has some counterplay there. But I'm not sure. It should have been winning for me somehow, but I let it go. Anyway, guys, welcome to my stream. You can also check out the, the videos. I do upload them to YouTube. My YouTube channel is Video Chess Training on YouTube. Please subscribe and like over there. Also, if anyone can donate to support the stream and my YouTube channel, I appreciate it via PayPal. A few people have done that, and I really, really, super appreciate it. So thanks for all of you that have supported me via PayPal. Hopefully I can keep this going all next year with a little bit of help from everyone else. I intend to keep streaming through 2017. Beyond that, we just have to imagine that everything goes good. Who's online? Gabix is online. Hungarian, I am friend of mine. Naj Gabor. Gabix94. All right, so it's the good old Grand Prix attack, old school variation. Bishop c4, bishop b5 is more popular because of my former friend Gingy Hashvili. We worked a lot together back in the day, and he was advocating that in his videos. I never really believed in it, but it's playable for white. Bishop c4 is more like the classical approach. Now white played a3. But I think a3 is a tidbit slow. I imagine that it's playable. The bishop will retreat back to a2. We see this more often where white doesn't play f4. It's a kind of defensive closed Sicilian setup for white. You know, pawn on f2, like d3, maybe bishop f4, h3 type of stuff. So it's up to you whether you want to play d5 or not. I would imagine that d5 is perfectly okay. I'm not really playing d5 too often in those closed Sicilians where white doesn't play f4. I don't like to overextend my pawns. Pawn takes pawn here. Now I could take either way, but I guess pawn takes pawn is more natural. This opponent here, new opponent for me, German speaker, tempting to play d4, d3. d4, knight e4, d3. This is like a kind of long-term pawn sacrifice. d4, d3. It's certainly not forced. I have lots of options. I can play castles, bishop g4. d4, knight e4, d3. Knight takes c5. I have a move there. It does let his pieces get fairly active, though. If I play d4, d3, his a2 bishop becomes strong. Is it worth it? It's a good question. But it really freezes up the rest of his game. Let's try it. It's adventurous and fun and creative. Are we allowed to challenge here? Danielos, of course. My former friend. Yeah, he betrayed me in a sense. There's been a lot of betrayals. I'm not one to betray people. Okay, d4. d3. That's the idea. Knight to e4. Yeah, he gets a good square for his knight, maybe a good diagonal for the bishop, but he's got other problems. This bishop is... So we're doing this to, like, permanently or for a long time incarcerate the a1 rook and bishop on c1. That's the strategic point here. Strategic incarceration. There are some tactical points involved. I don't think he has any piece sacrifices that are outrageously dangerous. There's some tricky variations I was looking at. Let's see. Yeah, there's a neat line. I don't want to give it away, though. If he tries to get really aggressive with some kind of crazy stuff. Okay, so rook b1, that's a very rational move. This is obviously threatening. Well, not really threatening anything. I can just castle here. Okay, let's just castle. I wonder if I had to get castled, and there's too many threats against like f7 and stuff. But I mean, rook b1 is a pretty heads up, sensible move. He's gonna play that anyway in these type of positions to get the rook off the long diagonal. But it still doesn't solve all of his problems. It also messes him up structurally. I mean, this isn't just about blocking in his bishop and his rook. It's also obviously threatening to kind of tear up his pawn structure. So I think the most important goal for me is to reach a situation where white has like an isolated pawn or some kind of really concrete like pawn weaknesses. He can't take the pawn on c5. I mean, he can if he wants to, but it's probably not recommended. And then, you know, ultimately I'm hoping for a smooth pawn structure with b6. GG really. Do you guys have any recommendations for chess opening theory books? Well, you know, this really, I think a lot depends on whether you're talking about are we talking about like specific openings? Are we talking about opening theory like as a whole? Because I think opening theory as a whole has been neglected. I've talked about this on a number of occasions. Somewhere I have a book. It's an old book called Modern Chess Opening Theory by Alexei Swaytin. It's an old Russian grandmaster who's deceased, but he was like a second of Petrosian. That is one of the few books in history of chess, I think, that really dealt with discussing opening theory like as a whole. I mean, there's a million opening books about specific openings and setups and whatnot, but I don't know that a great book has been written on like opening theory in general. So here I'm thinking to take, we've got the structural advantage I was talking about. We also have some tactical possibilities. Bishop f5. You know, that looks kind of awkward for white. Maybe add some simple queen b6 check. He could always play queen c5. This makes things more complicated. Maybe I'm not winning, but I have a lot of interesting moves. I remember the old Batsford, how much I hated reading it. But you're talking about like Batsford's chess openings or something. And I got the impression that Danielos was talking not really about an encyclopedia type of book, but more about like a theoretical kind of, more, how to say, you know, more conceptual kind of book, rather than an open encyclopedia. Opening encyclopedia is an opening encyclopedia, but a conceptual book about, you know, opening theory is another story. That's kind of what I was getting at. Now, Now we have to start being a little bit careful. But I like developing pieces, especially with tempo. Mobilize. Mobilize quickly. Rook c8 is a nice move. White has a lot of weaknesses to deal with. d3, b4, the d4 square. This is clearly better for black. Guys, we have time for probably one more game after this. I mean, at least at this pace. FM Ventura finally changed his time control. So he would be next. But I think it's more important. Actually, I was talking to one of my students. It's a little boring, the opening encyclopedia. I mean, there are digital versions now. Obviously, you can go to like ChessBase or Chess Informator and probably buy like a digital encyclopedia. I think that's essential though. If any of you guys don't have like in your possession some kind of opening encyclopedia, I think you've made a mistake. You know, it's really, I think it's like essential to have some kind of opening encyclopedia. All right, now Queen d2. Queen d2. It's an annoying move. Defending everything. Queen b6 check. What am I doing here? Not really sure what I'm doing here. Alright. Playing blitz, I guess. Knight d4, I don't know that this move really does anything. But then clarify the situation. It opens my rook along the file. But it's not the most constructive move. But I'm getting kind of low on time. I didn't see anything concrete. It also, well, maybe the other knight swings through c6. I have knight d5 now. This looks good. I'd love to get that white squared bishop off the board. He's a enemy of the state. This guy is not friendly. Yeah. Bye-bye, Mr. Bishop. You're not welcome. Good structure. Safe king. But he's still hanging on. King h1. Logical move. What about like rook c2? Is that a good move? Rook on the 7th. Simple answer. I didn't really make much progress with that. What about knight takes d4? f3. Yeah. Am I winning a piece here? Knight takes f3. Yes, I am. That's convenient. It wasn't part of my plan, but I'm not winning a piece. He has this, unfortunately. No, he can take that way. But his position is really destroyed. Bishop d4. know what to do here. Simply swipe this pawn or not. He has some tricks. Bishop takes e4. Rook takes f3. Check. Most unfortunate that he has a check there. I guess I just have to accept the fact that I'm not winning by force. Blunder. Alright, guys, last game, it's going to be... Ellie Super didn't change his challenge, so... Ventura MF, FIDE Master from Brasilia. Brazil. Alright. This will be... I think this is last game for today, guys. I've got to get going. So, if Ventura is here, we're going to play this strong player. And come back tomorrow with more Blitz Classical Chess, 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So good luck, and this is it for today, guys. Whoops. Yeah, let's stick with our guns, I guess. We played a Caro-Kann, we played the Petrov today, but I guess facing a strong player, I'm going with my main opening. So I played a lot of Sicilians, but lately it's been mostly accelerated dragon and classical. Play a classical. Let's start the sirens. Oh no, he challenged me to rated. I told him before not to challenge me to rated. I just saw he changed the time control. Well, now I can't change it, but no, dude, I don't play rated. I asked him to change the time control, but he didn't want to. And he changed the time control, but now he didn't change it back to rated. So, I can't resign. You can't abort games, though, can you? I have to play it out. The thing I can do. But it's pretty weird. I mean, I asked him 10 times to play me. Well, anyway, I just won't commentate. It's just too difficult to play a strong player while I'm playing rated. Oh well. The sirens went unheard. I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you meant by the sirens. I was like, sometimes I get comments about the ambulances outside my apartment, so when I saw that I was like, well, yeah, it's pretty cold out. Not a lot of cars in the street. F3. It's a professional move. Yeah, I didn't really understand what you meant, to be honest, by sirens. But Ventura MF, yeah, he took forever to change his challenge from 10 minutes to 8-3, and then I didn't realize he made it rated again. Whatever. It's a bit strange setup. Bit of a strange setup. Bishop c4, bishop g5. I don't think there's anything I can do to like crush white here. I mean, these pieces are all protected. Not the bishop on c4, but what... I'm not going to commentate too much because it is a rated game. I don't want to give him any ideas. You could play like take, queen a5, for example. This is a normal piece configuration for black in most of these lines anyway. I'm not sure this is necessarily the best for me here, though. But he played an awkward move. I mean, f3, this move isn't that well known. But I think against bishop d7 and rook c8, it is a known idea. But with some kind of ideas of maybe playing like knight b3 and leaving my bishop and knight sort of like, and rook getting in each other's way. Not real common, though. Mind your time pace. This is rated. Yeah. I don't know. He wants to gain some rating points. I guess it's hard to find high-rated opponents. I don't mind playing off the stream rated. I usually do. But when I'm commentating and like giving moves to my opponents, it's not really wise to make it rated. Like, people are listening and like I'm telling them my ideas, you know. So this is the last game for today, guys. Whatever happens, happens. Please do not commentate, just focus on the move. I think he just wanted to play really badly. A strong player rated. Bishop takes f6. He's got quite a few games. I mean, this is not a new account. He has over 1,800 bullet games. I mean, it might be relatively new, but okay, his classical rating is based on just 42 games. He traded off his dark squared bishop. That seems a bit odd. Queen c5. This is not the only move. You know, it's like, I'm not going to commentate and give him like direct variations, but I can talk about the position in general. I mean, I think that it's sort of strange that he's played like f3 and then traded off his bishop on f6. That you don't normally see because he has a lot of dark squared weaknesses. I mean, oftentimes white plays f4 and trades on f6. But then you have the pawns on the dark squares, especially the pawn on f4, fg3 maybe. Okay. This is kind of a typical ending. More or less. More or less about equal. He could have tried to avoid the exchange of queens. But as I said earlier, it's a bit weird, you know. Here now, we can try to play d5. But objectively, it's a little artificial. We'll just try to stay solid here. I mean, long term, my position should be okay. Fortunately, he was going to double rooks, and like king e7 isn't any good. I'd rather put my king on e7 here. And this sort of ending, as I said, normally the pawn's on f4. And he's got like e5 or f5 tricks. Now he has to waste the tempo if he wants to play like that. I could have played d5, but it didn't seem that convincing to me. But in general, this kind of ending, I think I prefer black a little bit. But it's not. We shouldn't overestimate our position. There is the possibility of playing h4, h5. Also, maybe just rook g8. MCJGP. Get over it. Well, it's kind of like defeating the purpose, you know. I could just play online blitz with random people and not commentate on the games, but that wouldn't be what I do, you know. Alright, so f5. Sorry for coughing, guys. I've got a kind of asthmatic thing going on. Nothing serious, just annoying. Anyway, I think the position's about equal, objectively. Dynamic equality is going on. f5 was an aggressive move, but I don't, you know, I want to preempt. I want to kind of preempt aggressive play by him a little bit here. So we did trade off a double pawn and create something of a powerful pawn in the d pawn a little bit here. Yeah, f4 is what I expected. Now he's threatening knight e4. So the simplest solution is either d5 or d5 might trap my own rook, though. There is h5. Does h5 seem good? Knight e4, d5. Knight goes back. Yeah. Let's go with h5. It's not easy to find strong opponents in classical chess here. On lichess. What's up with rook e1? What is he doing with that? Not really sure. Trying to stop d5? I was actually thinking about this king walk a long time ago. It's a typical Rouser maneuver. It was something that was on my mind, well, honestly, like 10 moves ago. When I first was going into the plan of this ending, so king c7, bishop c6. No, objectively, this is like equal. My two bishops are okay, but the dark square bishop is... it's a little bit inactive. Good defender, though. Boris Gulko would testify to that. How many times I've seen Boris Gulko like beat people in endings with this bad bishop against knight, for example. It's like a lot. Botvinnik also like the classical Sicilian. The wing pawns with the two bishops. But usually white shouldn't lose this kind of position. He could. But objectively, I think he's okay. He's centralized. Now, knight e2. Okay, he's heading for d4. I have e5 here. h4 doesn't work. Is h4 definitely not good? Looks kind of interesting. It's going to get kind of complicated. Changing the position pretty seriously. And I thought maybe h3. It's hard to attack my rook on c5. Wow. Ooh, I didn't expect that move. Bishop takes f7. Now bishop e5. Looks like we're okay here. I don't know if I'm winning or not. I definitely missed that. Definitely missed that. Shit. Missed that too. Just missing everything. Knight d4. It's like a forced win. Of course. No, there's no defense here. This is very strong play in ultra fast time scramble there. Alright guys, I'm going to be back tomorrow. Multiple blunders there. You're obviously a very fast player. I was totally winning, but nice defense there at the last 10 moves was super. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. It'll be Friday, 10 a.m. with Classical and Blitz between 10 and 12:30 a.m. So no rated games, and we'll see you guys then. Thanks. Bye-bye.